Let's say you're part of a team working out in the forest. You're cutting down trees on what feels like a normal day. Then you accidentally find something incredible.
In those situations, you want nothing more than a meter or two of good solid concrete between you and the enemy. You pretty much want a German bunker.
At first, it was just a routine drone flight over a quiet, forgotten part of the forest. But then, the camera caught something strange. An old World War II bunker, long forgotten in the woods. From above, it looked like just another abandoned site. But when the drone dipped lower and shined its camera inside, what it captured left everyone frozen. Why was a stuffed animal sitting in the middle of the floor? Who or what left the strange markings on the walls? Join us as we reveal the mystery of the abandoned bunker the world was never meant to see. You won't believe your eyes. A wolf's secret. Deep in the forests of Poland, where silence hangs heavier than fog, lies the decaying ruin of the wolf's lair. Adolf Hitler's once impenetrable Eastern Front HQ.
People generally think of Hitler at the Eagle's Nest, but in reality he spent over 800 days at the Wolf's Lair. It was by far the most used of all his headquarters.
But it's not just the crumbling bunkers or bullet-scarred walls that chill visitors to the bone anymore. It's what they found underneath. In 2022, during routine excavation near Göring's old quarters, yes, the same Göring with the feathered hats and monstrous appetite for power, archaeologists with the help of drone cameras uncovered something that stopped them cold. 5 mutilated human skeletons, dumped and buried in the dirt like secrets that refused to stay hidden. No tags, no uniforms, no records, just twisted remains and questions no one really wants to answer. Was it a failed escape? A covert execution? Or some sick Nazi ritual meant to fuel the war machine? Historians argue, locals whisper, and conspiracy theorists are practically camping there. Some say the spirits of those buried souls never left. Some say their fate was never meant to be uncovered. But one thing's undeniable. Beneath the moss and concrete of Hitler's most infamous hideout lies a mystery darker than the war itself. And if walls could talk, these ones would scream. Do you think this strange? Wait till you see the next one. Benor Bunker. Tucked deep in the French countryside, where cows now outnumber soldiers, lies a concrete monster that once had world-ending ambitions, the Benor Bunker. It was the Nazis' twisted dream factory, designed to launch V1 flying bombs straight into the heart of London.
This was a new terror. This was the first V1 flying bomb.
But guess what? It never fired a single one. This place isn't just a bunker, it's a 55,000 cubic meter slab of almost danger. Built tough, like it was expecting to survive the apocalypse, it endured 27 Allied bombing raids. And yet, it still stands. Cracked, bruised, humiliated, but still standing. Now, that's German engineering for you. But here's the creepy twist. Despite all the power it was meant to wield, the bunker failed, spectacularly. The missiles never launched, the war tide turned, and Benor became just another ghost on Hitler's haunted bucket list. Today, it's half swallowed by nature. Moss carpets its roof like war never happened, and vines wrap around it like they're trying to hush the past. Locals whisper that it's cursed. Maybe they're just being dramatic. Or maybe the bunker, built to rain hell on London, now carries the weight of its own failure, like a villain who never got their big finale. And that, oddly enough, is what makes it worth visiting. Regelbau 502. Hidden in the thick woods near Poland's western border is something that time forgot, or maybe time chose to forget. It's called Regelbau 502, a World War II-era German bunker, built as part of the Pomeranian Wall. At first glance, it looks like a block of concrete dumped in the middle of nowhere, but when you step closer, it feels like it starts to whisper. This isn't your average wartime relic. Unlike others that were bombed, gutted, or turned into dusty museums with gift shops, Regelbau 502 remains nearly untouched. Its steel doors still seal tight. Its gas locks still creak. Its corridors still echo like they've been holding their breath for 80 years. Built with thick, reinforced walls and designed to survive chemical attacks, the bunker was part shelter, part command post, and maybe part tomb. It's a 2-room chamber that feels like it could snap shut and swallow you whole at any moment. Some locals avoid it. They say strange sounds come from the forest at night. Metallic clinks, low rumbles, doors slamming when no one's there. Now this isn't a tourist spot. It's a portal, a German ghost bunker with a heartbeat of its own. So go ahead, take a step inside. But don't be surprised if it doesn't want to let you go. Canford Cliff Shelter. In the picturesque playground of Dorset, you'd never guess that beneath your feet lies a grim reminder of Britain's darkest days. Hidden beneath cracked concrete doors, there's a relic that speaks to survival and a haunting sense of resilience. It's not a theme park attraction or an ancient castle. It's the Canford Cliff Shelter, a World War II air raid shelter where up to 80 civilians found refuge from the skies.
Here is the air raid shelter from World War II.
During over 50 bombing raids, this small underground space became a sanctuary, a quiet hideaway from the hell that rained down from above. The bombs, familiar to the British, were a constant reminder of the brutal reality of war. But in this shelter, life somehow went on. Children played, families huddled, and strangers became temporary neighbors, all while the world outside tried to tear itself apart. Now, the shelter sits forgotten, untouched by time, but not by history. The heavy concrete walls, once a lifeline, stand still. Inside, the silence is deafening. The echoes of laughter and hurried whispers are long gone, now replaced by the cold hum of the past. Fortress of Mimo. Beneath the sleepy chalk hills of northern France is one of the most terrifying what-ifs of World War II, a forgotten mega-weapon that could have turned London into rubble in minutes. They called it the V3 supergun. Imagine a weapon so monstrous, it could fire 600 shells per hour from France, directly into the heart of Britain. Hitler wanted a storm of steel, an endless barrage of terror. And beneath Mimo, the engineers got to work. They carved deep tunnels into the hillside, stuffed them with 130-meter-long barrels, and loaded them with ambition, concrete, and madness. But before the V3 could even cough out a single shot, the British caught wind of it, and they sent a reply that echoed through history. Their response? The legendary 617 Squadron, yes, the same daredevils behind the Dambusters raid. Their new weapon of choice? The Tall Boy, an earthquake bomb so heavy it could make the earth flinch. They dropped them with surgical precision, and boom, Mimo became a graveyard. Tunnels collapsed like straws under a boot. Ventilation shafts shattered. Hundreds of forced laborers and Nazi troops were entombed instantly. The V3 was buried alive, its barrels crushed, its evil potential suffocated beneath thousands of tons of rock. Today, the site sits quietly. Visitors wander through the restored tunnels where shadows stretch long and cold. The walls still bear scars. The silence is thick, almost like the site itself remembers what almost happened. Hidden Battery Kingman. Forget tourist traps and postcard views. Deep in the tangled woods of Sandy Hook, New Jersey, there's something far stranger. Those who know where to look, like our daring drone crew, find Battery Kingman.
Battery Kingman, this is artillery emplacement at Fort Hancock, Sandy Hook, New Jersey.
A mysterious relic from 1917. A decaying coastal defense fort from 1917 that feels more haunted house than historical landmark. Originally built to protect New York Harbor from naval threats, Kingman housed two monstrous 12-inch guns capable of hurling 1,000-pound shells more than 20 miles out to sea. That's the kind of firepower that doesn't just say go away, it screams it. But guess what? Today, nature has taken over. Moss coats the walls, Rust clings to rails where shells once rolled, and graffiti battles history across every inch of concrete. The air is damp, and the silence is suspicious. Then the drone catches it, something that shouldn't be there. A stuffed animal, alone, perched on crumbling stone like a forgotten sentry. Maybe it's nothing, or maybe it's a message. Battery Kingman wasn't just a fortress. It was a war machine, tucked away like a secret. Now it's a relic, slowly sinking into the earth, taking its stories with it. What happened here? And why does it feel like the walls are listening? Some say it's just an old fort. Others, they swear it watches you. This is quite mysterious, but what would you say about the next one? The abandoned Cold War Nike base. Just a stone's throw from rusty World War II bunkers, tucked between overgrown paths and curious deer, sits something even creepier. The Nike missile base. Yes, we made no mistakes, not shoes. Missiles, as in nuclear-tipped anti-aircraft weapons, waiting in silence to knock Soviet bombers out of the sky. Built during the Cold War's most paranoid years, this base was America's invisible shield. Concrete silos, radar towers, and missile elevators hid in plain sight. These weren't test models. They were the real deal. Locked, loaded, and aimed at the clouds. But the real deal is that today, the gates creak open with a smile. There's a friendly little sign offering guided tours. Yeah, suddenly it's a picnic spot, a Cold War fortress turned field trip destination. And yet, the whole place hums with a weird energy. A tension that never quite left. Peel back the layers and things get weird. The fences are rusted, sure, but why are the nearby World War II bunkers locked tighter than Fort Knox? The ones with no public access, no smiling tour guides, just surveillance cameras and secrets. Maybe the Nike base is the distraction, a curated relic for curious minds. Probably something that says, look here, not over there. A Cold War sleight of hand. After all, what better way to hide something than make another thing visible? So if you're ever in Sandy Hook and your guide says, don't worry, it's perfectly safe, just remember, the scariest things are often in plain sight. And the ones that are off limits? Well, those are the ones worth losing sleep over. The disappearing guns of Battery Gunnison. This is Battery Gunnison, where Cold War grit meets World War II ingenuity. Standing like metal sentinels from another era, these 6-inch coastal guns still point silently out to sea.
The concrete structure beyond the trees is Battery Gunnison, built in 1904. Each time they fired their 6-inch caliber shells.
But here's where it gets creepy and undoubtedly clever. These weren't just ordinary cannons. They were mounted on disappearing carriages. Imagine this. After each deafening shot, the entire gun dropped behind the thick concrete wall, shielded from enemy fire, reloaded in silence, and then sprung back up like a deadly jack-in-the-box. The enemy never knew what hit them. Boom, vanish, and repeat. But now, the vanishing act is over. The disappearing guns don't disappear anymore. They sit fully exposed, rusting in the salty air, battered by decades of wind and time. No longer mechanical marvels, now they're ghostly monuments to a different kind of war. And yet, something about them feels poised, like they're just waiting for the right moment, as if some forgotten command might fire them back to life. And who knows, they might rise again. What do you think? The weird underground passageway. This one starts like every good horror movie, innocently. The drone team was deep inside Battery Kingman, exploring the damp, echoing halls, when they spotted something odd. A narrow slit of a passage, almost completely hidden behind a slab of concrete and old piping. It didn't look like anything. In fact, it looked pointless. No signs, no lights, no airflow, just a dark, claustrophobic invitation to make a very bad decision. Armed with a flashlight and more confidence than sense, the team crawled in, backs scraping concrete, breath echoing off tight walls, every step making you question your life choices. The passage was barely wide enough for a person, and just low enough to feel like a trap. It twisted, turned, dipped, climbed again. And then it opened up, not into a secret chamber, not into some long-lost weapons cache or forbidden archive, but back into the same hallway they started in. Why would the military build a cramped, winding tunnel that leads absolutely nowhere? Could it be a secret escape route? Or a way to disorient intruders? And yet, the strangest part wasn't the tunnel itself. It was the way the air felt down there. Heavy, like it didn't want you in, like it was watching you crawl. Undoubtedly, Battery Kingman is full of strange corners and whispers from the past. But this one? It leaves your mind spinning in circles long after you crawl back out. Don't call this mind-blowing yet, until you see the next drone discovery. The secret ammunition testing proving ground. On the surface, it's just an old archway, faded brick, a rusted gate, maybe some pigeons overhead. You'd walk right past it without a second thought. But step through that arch, and everything changes. Welcome to the 1874 Proving Ground, once the U.S. Army's cutting-edge playground for testing explosives and experimental ammunition. This was the place where ideas either boomed or failed spectacularly. And judging by the blast-scarred walls, there were plenty of both. The deeper you walk, the more it feels like time stopped mid-experiment. Massive concrete blast chambers still reek faintly of gunpowder. Craters in the floor suggest tests that went very wrong. But it's the tunnel that gets you. Near the back of the structure, almost hidden, is a narrow, sealed passage, locked tight. No signs, no warnings. Locals talk about theories of chemical weapons, failed supershells, or even Cold War experiments that were a little too effective. The Proving Ground isn't some museum piece. It's raw, scorched history. The kind that never wanted to be found. The Elba Yubot bunker. Beneath an ordinary parking lot in Hamburg, Germany, sleeps a monster of metal and secrets. Few who walk above it realize they're standing over what was once the nerve center of Nazi Germany's submarine warfare, the WW2 U-boat bunker.
At first, U-boats were being built in normal shipyards, but these quickly became prime targets for Allied bombers. The Nazis needed a secure site.
Built in 1940, it wasn't just a bunker. It was a fortress, carved to shelter the infamous U-boats, including the revolutionary Type 21 subs. These were the future of naval warfare, quieter, deadlier, faster. Had they launched in full numbers, the Atlantic could have turned into a graveyard. But they never got the chance. On May 2, 1945, with Allied forces closing in and Germany crumbling, the crew rigged the facility with explosives. The inside collapsed, entombing technology, tools, and maybe more. British forces arrived soon after. Instead of digging it out, they made a decision: seal it permanently. They flooded the interior, filled the entrances with rubble, and buried the whole thing in concrete. The Mountousausen Quarry bunker. At first glance, the Austrian countryside here seems peaceful, rolling hills, birdsong, and silence. But step closer to the stone steps carved into the rock, and you'll feel it. Something terrible happened here. This was Mountousausen, and those 186 steps, known as the Stairs of Death. Every day, prisoners, starving, beaten, barely alive, were forced to haul massive granite blocks up the cliff face. Slipping meant a broken body. Stopping meant a bullet. And at the top, a concrete bunker, cold and unforgiving, where SS officers stood watch, or worse, issued orders that turned this labor into ritualized torment. The bunker wasn't just an observation post. It was the brain of the operation, a control room for cruelty, where logistics of death were calculated with chilling precision. Today, the site is part of the Mountousausen Memorial. The quarry, the stairs, the bunker, all still stand. The Nazis didn't just build weapons here, they built a system to crush souls. The Ree Complex. Beneath the fog-draped owl mountains of Poland is a secret so massive it earned the name Rees German for giant. And giant it was. A labyrinth of tunnels and caverns blasted into bedrock, stretching for miles beneath the surface. But here's the twist. No one knows exactly why. Built by the Nazis, of course, the Ree Complex swallowed thousands of lives. Prisoners carved the passages with their bare hands, dying by the dozens each day. No blueprints survived, no clear purpose was ever confirmed. Some whisper it was meant to be Hitler's last stand, a subterranean fortress immune to bombs. Others believe it was a hidden site for developing Wunderwaffe, mythic wonder weapons that could have turned the war. Still others suggest something even darker, probably early nuclear experiments, concealed in silence. But no one can tell exactly what it is and why they stopped. The Sausen Bunker Complex. Just outside Berlin, you would find the sleepy woods of Wunsdorf. The Sausen Bunker Complex, codenamed Maybach Y and 2,
and the Zeppelin Bunker, all to do with the Supreme High Command of the German Army in the Second World War,
was no ordinary hideout. It was the underground brain of the Third Reich, home to the OKH and OKW. These bunkers weren't just bomb-proof, they were built to outlast annihilation. Buried under meters of reinforced concrete and armed with their own power plants, air filters, and wells, they could sustain hundreds. Rumors swirled of hidden tunnels, espionage training, even Cold War weapons stockpiles. Today, locals say you can still hear metal doors creak open by themselves, and no one knows just how far the tunnels go. But what else lies buried beneath Sausen? And why has no one dared to fully open it up? Bunker BS3. Near Bratislava, hidden beneath layers of moss, roots, and decades of silence, lies Bunker BS3, a forgotten relic of Czechoslovakia's desperate attempt to defend its borders in the 1930s. Manned by just 21 soldiers and armed with heavy machine guns, this concrete fortress once stood watch over the Austrian frontier, ready to resist a coming storm that would soon sweep across Europe. But the storm came fast. Today, nature has reclaimed the bunker. Trees grow through cracks in the reinforced concrete. Rust has consumed its steel doors. No signs point the way. You won't find it on tourist maps. Only with the help of drones, skimming the treetops and scanning the undergrowth, did our team uncover this lost military outpost. The footage reveals a structure swallowed by the forest, yet somehow still watching. Peering through gun slits now covered in ivy, you can almost sense the ghosts of soldiers who once waited in silence for an invasion that never came. Bunker BS3 doesn't just guard a border, it guards secrets. Secrets the forest seems determined to keep. That brings us to the end of the video. Which of the drone discoveries did you find most intriguing? And which of them would you like to visit? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click on the following video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.